Hey, curious cuties. Welcome to Curiosity. I'm your host, Lauren Deliri, and this week, in part 2 of my conversation with Rachel Benton, we dive deeper into the fascinating intersection of science and magic. We explore how to manifest success by combining business strategies with the power of intuition and vulnerability. Rachel also shares insights on incorporating human design into both business and home environments. Keep listening for an inspiring discussion on blending the practical and the mystical to achieve your goals. So I do want to talk about float for a bit.
Hey, I love it.
So I want you to just tell us what inspired you to start this venture? How does it align with your overall mission? Where did it come from?
So for those listening, are listeners everywhere?
Everywhere, yeah.
Okay, so we're in Nashville, Tennessee.
But I do have listeners here in Nashville.
Okay.
I just did a meetup here.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah, it was a fun turnout. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're in Berry Hill area of Nashville, if you don't know, and it's called Float Nashville, which can be confusing. People might think we're floating down a river or something, but it's flotation therapy.
Yeah.
For other people in other areas, there's float centers globally, so maybe this will inspire you. And floating found me. And I always say, just like human design did, I always say, things always find you when it's time.
Yeah.
And I always say it's the biggest gift from spirit that I've ever had.
Oh.
And prior to Float finding me, I was really much operating as two separate personalities almost.
Yeah.
So it was all money, all business, because I taught in business school.
Okay.
And then back then, I did a lot of investor meetups or teaching new investors, or it was all about money.
Yeah.
Which I love, and I loved helping other people grow their wealth. Or we talked about, we bring in private capital. Mm-hmm. So I'd be teaching your everyday person on debt.
Okay.
On investing.
Yeah.
On, you've got the Dave Ramsey bit. What Dave Ramsey didn't say is how we invest it. How do you grow it? How do you get your money working for you? How do you leverage your time? How do you leverage other people's time? And you know what I mean? So that was all one of me. And then over here, to keep myself regulated, I was doing yoga. I was practicing breath work. It's
more your spiritual woo-woo side.
Yes. I was all into human design. I was very separate, right? Yeah. Two halves of me were very, very separate. Mm-hmm. And through this investor meetup group that I was co-running, it was brand new. And we were in our second month, and in our Facebook group in the middle of the day, somebody said, "Hey, local investors, one of my clients is selling their business Float Nashville."
Yeah.
Rewind 6 months before, I was in Murfreesboro, and I had a client. Back then I did real estate, I was a real estate agent. So I had a client, retail client. And her mom had passed away during our time together. And so I called her husband. I said, "Hey, I want to do something for her." She's a young mom too. And I said, "What's something she loves to do? This is just for her." You know? And he said, "Oh, she loves to get massages at this place." And I was like, "Oh." So I walk in that place to get a gift card. And I'm like, where am I at? Oh my God, this is amazing. Show me around. The owner showed me around. Well, they have floating there. And I was like, "What is this?" And he started telling me about it. And I was like, "Oh my God, I'll be back tomorrow." And this is in Murfreesboro. That's an hour drive, but I didn't care. I was I knew in my body.
Yeah. You're being
There's
drawn
something
to that.
to this.
Yeah.
And so, and again, back then I was still really connected to my body. I just didn't teach it, And so Brian and I went in, floated, and I was getting downloads in that float tank. And we were floating together, which now I know is not, it's hard to get into. I could hear him snoring and shit. You know what I mean? I'm but I was still getting stuff. Yeah. And I'm oh my God. I got out of there. I was oh my God. The owner and I talked for an hour, and my husband is very extroverted and loves all things money and business too. And loves, he's so deep. That's why we attracted to each other. Cause I could talk. He could have a podcast, he's just interesting. So all three of us were talking, and we go to dinner later, and he was like, "Rachel, you're not supposed to be in real estate." And the manifestor me was like, "What?" And he was like, "You're supposed to be doing something like this. You don't need to be teaching money. You need to be doing this. You were different when you were in there." And I was "No, I love money. What are you talking about? No, you're wrong. That would never happen."
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do a float spa. You just heard this guy talk about how hard it is. He was like, "Okay, I'm just telling you, you were different. Your energy's different."
So when you were talking
he was picking up on there. Yeah. And he's such an encourager. And I'm like, "Whatever, don't tell me what to do, He's very dismissive about it, and he's like, "Okay, whatever." Well, then 6 months later is when somebody's like, "Hey." So that's why my
it was planted.
I pinged because I was like, "Wait a minute, what?
Yeah,
floating can't go away because this was COVID. This was Coming out of COVID. This was March of like 2021.
Okay.
I was like, oh no, they're going to close.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in the realm of investment. Like, how can I raise capital for them? Oh no, they need money. A bank's not giving them money. How can we get the money? Yeah. That's all I was thinking. I just don't want them to close. That's what I thought. So I call the agent and she's like, oh, no. This is more burnout. Like they need to sell it for their mental health. Wow. And I was like, well, what are we talking? Like how much money? And I'm still thinking out of the realm of possibility. Yeah. And the number she gave was like reasonable. And I'm like, oh. And then my husband walks in and he never comes home midday. We didn't have kids. I was just working from home. I was like, oh my God, like, listen to this. And he was like, get in the car, let's go. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, we're going down there. And I was like, what? And he's like, get in the car, let's go.
Oh my God.
I was like, okay. And we walk in and then, okay, I don't know if you know, do you know about Abraham Hicks?
Yes.
Okay. So I was like binging Abraham Hicks at this time. Okay. I walk in that float spa and I shit you not, there's Abraham Hicks cards right there. And I was like, oh my God.
Like, it's a sign.
And I start getting nervous, because this means this is an investment on me.
Yeah, it's a very different investment.
Yes.
Yeah.
A hugely different investment. It feels very uncalculated.
Yeah.
Right? It feels like what? But my husband is a manifesting generator and he has sacral decision making. So he's very guttural. Okay. Like very intuitive, very quick. He's very quick. Okay. Yeah. Me, not so much.
So what is your...
An emotional wave. So I have a high and a low, and then I'm like 80% sure. And that's why I was like, I owe my sister a lot of money, the therapist, because until I learned human design, that girl was on speed dial, walking me through all of my decisions in life. But now I'm great. I understand my wave. Yeah. Very much confident with the decisions. Yeah. And back then, I had signs and symbols to keep me reassured, right? Sure, so that Abraham Hicks sign was a big sign for me, right? And so we go. The owners aren't there. It's just their only employee they had. But they were like, we'll meet you. So I called the agent. She's like, hey, he'll meet you. They can't be there till 7 tonight. Okay. He'll meet you. And I was like, I call my mom, like, hey, can you pick up the kids? Like, this is insane, but we got something going on. She's like, that's fine. We go. The owner was the same guy in Murfreesboro. He owned both. Wow. And so it was like home. Like that's the only feeling I can say is like it felt like home. Yeah. And he was really transparent about the business, took us back, pulled up all these reports. Yeah. And then I'm quickly doing math. I mean, I know money, and so I start thinking like, well, this is like a no-brainer, And Brian's like, well, yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. Another thing I've learned about my energy is I know this now, but I do really big things because I don't realize how much work it's really going to be. Okay. Yeah. My mind simplifies everything. Just like how I teach, actually. I can teach complexity because I can make it simple. Yeah. My brain makes everything simple. Okay. And it's a gift and a curse. Yeah. Because I take on things and don't realize. Yep. Until you're in it. And
but it also makes you really brave.
Yes, I guess. Yeah. Or stupid. I don't know. I'm not stupid, but you know what I mean? It's just like,
you're like, sure, let's jump in. Bliss.
Yeah. And now my husband's like, because I'll walk like a property with him. I'm like, you could easily do it. And he's like, listen to all those easily. Easily. I'm like, well, with the right team, you could easily do. And so that's how Float Nashville came to be.
That's crazy.
And so I bought this business. And 2 weeks later, like from that Facebook to I have the keys in my hand was 2 weeks.
Oh my 14 days. That happened so fast.
I was sick. I was nauseous. But I knew I had the Abraham Hicks thing. Yep. I had all these signs and symbols in my annual manifestation journal. I wish I could eventually had to tell you. It was like number 47, 49, and 50 that year. I had written bathhouse, float spa, cold plunge. And some of those things I think are still manifested. Yeah. I think there's still a bunch of things coming together. Okay. But I thought, oh my God, I've manifested this.
You have.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I held this in my awareness, even though that wasn't what I was building. I was building a real estate business. Yeah. So that's how it came. And what it did for me, it brought the two halves of me together. Yeah. So now I can be in my whole self and I can talk about, because it is a business. Yep. I can scale it. I can run it. I can grow it. I can break the numbers down. I can talk about marketing. I can do everything, but it's in the realm of helping and teaching people and educating people on the nervous system and having a modality that's so amazing. Yeah. So yeah, I think
I love that.
It made me whole.
Well, because here on the podcast, we talk about, we blend the woo-woo with the woo-hoo. Yeah. So it's always bringing those two halves of the whole duality, like I mentioned to you earlier, being Indigenous mixed for me.
Yeah.
Like I live in duality. And so, yeah, anyway, I love that you kind of brought it all together.
Well, and that's why, honestly, with human design, I can't just teach human design without teaching the nervous system.
Yeah.
Because that's both, like, that would be like teaching a piece of me. And I've learned from my past that that's not fulfillment.
Yeah.
You can't teach it all. And then that's why I brought in the whole entrepreneur financial stuff, because that's a lot of me.
Yep.
I'm a lot mom. So now this whole business can encompass everything that I'm about.
Right.
And things I'm really wise about and have real life experience on and can help other people do. And so.
Well, on that note, like, do you feel like you have a balance, or like, how do you balance the multiple businesses while staying true to your human design and, maintaining your personal like well-being, your mental health?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it's honestly, so another author that I love is Brene Brown. Mm-hmm. She teaches a lot about vulnerability.
Yeah.
So from that accumulator money side of me, that childhood trauma side of me, mm-hmm. I've had to really learn. And luckily I got to learn this young too, because I had a team at Verizon. Okay. Like 20-something people under me, right? And so when you're working amongst a team, you have to have trust and vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And you have to know there's a power in people. Yeah. And so luckily, it's so funny because with this company, with Float, it's a brick and mortar store. Yeah. So I'm like, man, I learned like so much of my Verizon skills are coming into this. Yeah, that's because it's a people business, For sure. And it's a machine in that way. It's a machine in that way. Yeah. And so honestly, the only way to have this balance is to have the right key players in place that I can lean on, that can help me. Like there's someone at the spa right now while we're talking, and I know that my job is to really move the needle in the business from a marketing standpoint. And I trust that team, when someone walks in that door, can execute from an experience standpoint. And they do things in that spa that I walk in and I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah. I would have never thought to do this. Like, thank you for bringing that creativity. Thank you for seeing, like I had one of them this week text me and say, hey, it's so-and-so's 250th float. I found out, he doesn't drink alcohol anymore, but he loves Yetis. Let's get him a Yeti coffee mug with logo on it. I'm like, you see what I'm saying? Like they're great. And I'm like, I just feel, and I don't ever look at lack. Yeah. I don't ever look at, a lot of times during COVID, and you still hear all the time, like, people just don't want to work anymore. And it's so hard to staff somewhere and da-da-da-da. And I don't think like that. Yeah. I think the universe is always bringing me the perfect people in the perfect timing. Mm-hmm. I do know that those people might not be on my team forever. Yeah. Right? But I always am hopeful that even when they're not in my team, that we're still on the same team. Right. And sometimes that doesn't always happen. Business can be challenging and hard, and that's when you surrender and you have a little bit of faith, and you know that time heals all wounds, and that sometimes you have to make difficult decisions. And at the end of the day, it just is what it is. Yeah. And my grandmother's famous words, you just let it be. Yeah. And it's fine. So the power's in the people. Yeah. I love that. That's great. Okay. I want to talk about some like the cultural conditioning that you are passionate about as well, like getting out of people. So what are some like common cultural conditionings that like you see in your clients, and how do you help them like shed those? Well, let's just say we all are really highly conditioned. Yeah. Because that's how the human brain works. Mm-hmm. And you can really see it when you have little kids. Yeah. Because they mimic. You learn from mimicking. Yeah. Picking up patterns. Right. We're very pattern driven. In the beginning of your life, you learn a lot from your internal family system. Mm-hmm. Middle school, teenage years, you start to learn from your friends. Mm-hmm. You pick up social habits and things like that. Yep. But the voice in our head is usually the conditioning of our parents. And I can even hear my kids say things. I'm like, that was verbatim how I say it. Yeah. And like, sometimes I'm proud of myself. Like, think that's real. I'm glad really I said nice, that. And then sometimes like, oh God, I'm so sorry that you remember that. So we're all conditioned. Yeah. And so accepting, like, let's start with step one is acceptance. Yeah. But there's a lot of things, like, especially like gender wise for women, like it makes me cringe. Like somebody passes away and they're like, she was so selfless. Mm-hmm. Well, that's bullshit. Right. And I'm sorry for her, because can't I be a good mother and a good friend and still show up for myself? Still care about myself. Still have boundaries and not be selfish? I don't want to live my life without myself. Right. Yeah. And labeling our different emotions different ways.
Yeah.
You know, it's conditioning. I was conditioned to think anger was bad.
Yep.
Because that was my life story. Mm-hmm. I was conditioned to think that it wasn't safe to be seen or heard. Yeah. I think we all have our different layers. I think the biggest one is the guilt and shame people carry around the timeline of their life.
Yeah.
What age they're doing what.
For sure.
And that I wish to God we could release so bad. And I see it just melt off people in human design sessions, especially for the 6th line profile and the 3rd line profile, because they're wired to do things in an experimental way, in a very trial and error way.
Okay.
So society would say you're failing, you're a failure. Society would say you're doing things the hard way, or you're taking too long. Okay. When really, like, the 6th line they're deep, they're very wise. They're mentors in the end, but they're wise because they've experienced and embodied things, right? Yeah. Like, they've done things to teach back. And that 3rd line is very trial and error forever. Yeah. But there's power and beauty in that. And so if you can start to reframe different words instead of a failing, you're experimenting, you're learning.
Trying things on.
You're trying things on. Yeah. You're playing. Like, there's just power in the words, right?
Totally.
And so I would say this, like, timeline is an issue. Yep. Shame because of the timeline. Is an issue. For manifesting generators especially, quitting is a trigger. Yeah, because
they are taught not to do that.
And their power
they need to. Yeah.
Yep. And the whole, like, well, if you want it to happen, just go out and make it happen. The hustle culture, it's not even good for the generators, because the generators are supposed to wait to respond. They're magnetizing everything. But if I'm so busy creating it and forcing it to happen, I'm missing everything that's coming to me because I'm not even paying attention.
Is there any,
I'm hustling,
like, type that's like, make it, create it, go get it?
The manifester.
The manifester,
But we're all responding to something. Yeah. So I'm, as a manifester, I call them downloads. I get massive downloads. And somewhat can be, I don't want to say dangerous, but, like, even this property I have that's at a state, and I'm currently actively selling it. But I can see the finish line so clear. Yeah. And I can see all of the profit so clear. Yeah. That if I wasn't embodied, I would be holding it. Yeah. To my detriment. Yeah. Because I can see it. But now I know, I'm very aware, I'm the bridge and I don't need to carry it to completion. So as a manifestor, we're here to inform and initiate. I don't, like, if I was trying to carry Float Nashville to completion, I'd be dead. Yeah. I need to initiate and release. Initiate and release. Okay. Same thing with that short-term rental. Or, like, it's just so important for us to initiate, but we're initiating from
what you're receiving.
Conscious. Yeah. Yeah. So if I'm not quiet, so as a manifestor, we're supposed to rest. I call it active rest because I'm getting all these downloads. Because if I'm not quiet, I'm not going to hear what I'm supposed to be creating, because it's often different and unique. Yeah. I'm going to be seeing and trying to copy, seeing and trying to repeat. Social media can be dangerous because you could be onto something really amazing, but then I could start comparing myself to other human design coaches and be like, and get completely off my path because mine's so different. Right. And we need to all be different. Yeah. Because we all have a specific, unique voice, and we have to really believe that the right audience will be attracted to us for what we have to share, because that's what they needed to hear, you know?
For sure.
So I think there's each type has its conditioning. Yeah. And it's usually funny because it's opposite of how you're supposed to operate. Yeah. So, like, generators.
Well, for me, I would definitely, mine is to wait to be invited. And I definitely have pushed and pulled and made my way a lot, and it's never felt good.
Yeah. And a funny story about that. My son's a projector. And last night, he's, like, real into Pokemon, which, like, none of us are, right? And so my husband's like, it's been a long day. We had traveled yesterday, and I hear Spencer be like, Dad, I need to teach you something. But here's his mistake. He says, Dad, can I teach you something real quick? And my husband clearly said no. He was like, no, buddy, not right now. And he's like, then he just starts in. And Brian said, did you not hear me? Just say no. And and as the mom in the room who, like, knows this little projector baby needs to be heard. Yeah. So I let it play out for a second. And Spencer's, like, teaching himself. He has this little imaginary friend. So his sister's in the bathtub. He's teaching Pokemon to whoever's listening. And from the other room, I said, hey, buddy, I'm doing laundry. Would you like to come in and teach me about Pokemon? He almost tripped over his feet. Like he couldn't get up fast enough because he got to be invited to share. And then I put boundaries around it, you know, because I'm like, hey, I can't actually play the game. I'm doing laundry, but I am happy to listen to you.
Oh, that's sweet.
Do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but you can play with it though. Like with your social media and stuff in this podcast, you're publicly putting out and then you'll get invited.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
Yeah.
Like
but I also I like offering invitation to people as well, you know, like because that's what would make me feel good.
Yes.
So in a way, it's like my way of like loving on humanity. I'm like, let me like invite other people into this like conversation.
And they love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because generators and manifesting generators are waiting to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So you creating invitations, giving them a space to respond.
Yeah.
A chance to respond. And that feels good too. So for the majority of people, it's going to feel good.
Yeah.
You have the manifestors who can get dysregulated by an invitation too. Isn't that weird? Like,
yeah, that is interesting.
Because we can be so not exhausted, but so, and I don't want to say put out, but remember ours, I asked you.
You asked me. Yes. Yeah, I love that.
And
I was
I
like,
saw you in the audience. It's so funny. Before you ever spoke, I saw you in the audience and my mind clocked you.
Oh, that's funny.
But I also love projectors.
Yeah.
And no offense, I love everyone, right? But the projectors have a way, because manifestors have a dense aura that they say is repelling. I like to say filtering, but it can be too much.
Okay.
And so yours is honing.
Mm-hmm.
So your energy body can kind of penetrate through.
Yeah.
And so as a manifestor, I can feel really seen by projectors.
Yeah. I love that.
They can just see me.
Good. I'm glad you feel that way. Yes. No, it's awesome. And you're also like what we talked about earlier, a safe person, because you can understand your emotions and like able to like communicate them. So that's important for people like projectors that need the communication so they know it's not them.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So anyway, I love. Okay. So that was on cultural conditioning, of course. And I was wondering if you did have like a success story from a client where you kind of unconditioned them, or you help them transform their life based on the work that you do with the human design through that cultural condition, like unconditioning, we'll call it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I could come up with several different ones because in the beginning, when you're working through the system and you're working with your strategy and authority, which is like what you're supposed to do, like we talked about waiting to respond or waiting to be invited. And then when you're talking about your decision making, like your emotional wave or your gut, or some people are splenic, like when you first get introduced to how you're supposed to operate, what's interesting is usually it's opposite than what they've been doing.
Okay. Yeah,
and
right.
I always say it feels like sandpaper on the inside to start to practice it, because it
feels so foreign. Do you think that's
the
first thing that like people kind of...
You have to do that first.
Okay.
Like I don't feel like there's any other... like.
So like intuition? Like, is that what you're saying? It's kind of like the way you make decisions?
Yes. Decision making is huge.
Okay.
Because if we can learn to have a pause...
Yeah.
And that gives us the space to wait for an invitation or wait to respond, or maybe create a different way we're doing things, right? So that space is first. But then after that space, just because you're invited doesn't mean you have to go.
Right. Right.
Even though it feels really good to be invited, right? So could you see, like, as a projector, you might just want to say yes to every invitation because it feels so good to finally get the freaking invitation. Yeah. But it's really important. What did you say you are? Decision making?
Oh, splenic.
Oh, well, that's amazing. So the spleen's very fast. Yeah. So it's very important for you to tune into the body and make sure the yes is your yes and you're not overriding a no. Okay. Yeah. But the spleen's very instant. The only thing about the spleen is the yes or the no can go away. So it's not going to remind you. Oh, so interesting. When you're bitter, so it's like right away. Back. It's right away in the moment. Okay. And so you're not going to be able to go back and next. Like you're not going to go back and think about it later to get the right answer. Okay. Okay. It's just you have to trust the moment. I wasn't sure about that. Okay. Good to know. You have to trust the moment. Okay. You'll learn in reflection. Okay. So in human design, we always learn in reflection. Our signs and symbols to reflect are those key emotions. Yeah. So if you feel bitter, then you're going to think back and then you're going to be like, shit, I was supposed to say no. Yeah. Okay. Get it now. That has happened. Yep. And that's how you learn how the spleen feels. Yeah. Okay. You're not shaming. Yeah. That feeling is not to bring shame. That feeling is to bring curiosity and reflection. We're learning, yeah. And you're learning through that. Well, I think because of the way I was raised, you know, whether it was just religious or just like cultural conditioning as we're talking. Yeah. I was taught to like kind of ignore my intuition, my like gut reaction or whatever. Yeah. And go do what was like uncomfortable, because there's a lot of things that were like, maybe as a projector, I wanted to be more like in my comfort zone or like spend time like alone or whatever. But as a
kid, I feel like I ignored my bodily signs because I was taught that I was choosing the easy way by listening to my body, because my body usually was like, no, I don't want to, join the team, or no, I don't want to whatever it was. But like, according to my mom is like really extroverted, really go, go, go. And she's like, she saw me and was like, you're choosing comfort. You're choosing or you're being lazy, or you're, being too shy, or you're doing whatever. And so then that taught me to just ignore my body telling me like, no, that's like not the group of friends for me, or no, that's like not my sport, or no, that's whatever, Yeah.
So I'm like, and learning I would say listen. I think everyone has some type of story like that.
Yeah.
Because, and again, no shame to that generation of parents. Like, they didn't know neuroscience. They sure the hell didn't have human design.
Right.
And we've come a long way. Right. And so I think that's why it's really powerful, because as a human, if we don't start to have a self-reflection and awareness, we will try to parent our kids like we wanted to be parented.
Right.
Or we'll just parent ourselves. Like, just like you have before you start to be awakened, you think everyone should think like you.
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, this worked in real estate. Everyone should do their business this way. That's not true.
Right.
Like, that's just what worked for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's very, very common to be disconnected from the body, no matter what type of parent you had.
Yeah.
Because
it's true.
They didn't have the knowledge to know any different.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this generation turns out.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Because I feel like there's more conscious parents now, even without human design. There's more.
Well, hopefully they just end up being a generation that like develops more things and is able to use their time not having to deconstruct and unravel and undo a bunch of things. They can instead just like keep building into a great human and create things and like make this world a better place.
Yeah. And that was human design's intention when it was channeled.
Yeah.
Was, could you imagine someone never having to decondition?
Yeah.
And that's
amazing.
A really cool thing to think about.
Cool aspect. Yeah.
And I see myself, even with this awareness, I've conditioned my kids some.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like inevitable, because that's how the human brain works.
Yes.
But it's always having that reflection of like, okay, in our family culture, are we creating space enough to ask Spencer for invitations? Mm-hmm. And I hate to call Spencer out, because we literally have every type in our house except the reflector.
Okay.
So it's like making sure that Finley gets to use her sacral and all of her energy. But there's times where we're creating rest and space.
Yeah.
And not pushing Spencer to do the same thing. But what's funny to watch him in action is the projector seems like he has more energy than the generator, because she's so tuned into her body that she asks for naps, she asks for rest, she asks for breaks.
Totally.
Where he's just going to go until so I have to create and encourage space for rest. And that looks different, whether it's sensory rest, relational rest. Like, it doesn't have to be a nap. It's just.
I'm excited for this book.
Oh, I'm so excited too.
Because that sounds sounds so. I don't know. It's so new. Like, parenting through human design is like so new.
And I'm actually actively experimenting with it.
You are. And my sister, I believe, my sister is also a generator.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking about the two of us growing up, right?
Yeah. I have a generator and projector.
Yeah. And so she was always like, put me to bed. Like, she knew. Yeah. Like, I'm going to bed. I'm tired now. I'm whatever. And I would probably just be like numbing out and zoning out, and like probably needed to rest like 3 times throughout the day. But didn't like know that was okay.
It wasn't encouraged, because if your mom was an active person, she would think that something's wrong with your sister.
Right. Right. Well, she
needs to go more.
She's always paying attention to my sister. I was definitely just like,
yeah.
But I was the second child out of 4. So,
you were just,
there's a lot of middle child
dynamics.
Like, yeah. But anyway, that's so fascinating. Everything you're saying makes me think of like if you all the relationships I have.
And if you learn human design from paper, you would assume how it would look is the projector like would have the most, they even call them lazy.
Yeah.
Like, people can perceive projectors as lazy.
Right.
When really they just get chronically burnt out from trying to perform like everyone else, because they've been amplifying for too long. Their fuses blow. But if you can teach the projector to create, like in my day today, I know I'm amplifying right now. I have so much energy in my body right now. But
I'm learning so much and I'm loving it.
And I love it. And it's okay. I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
But later today, I'll make sure I have my feet in the grass. I ground. I can't float today, but I'll walk this evening in nature. Like I might even do a salt bath like tonight. So there'll be areas where I'm not doing it because I'm burnt out.
Yeah.
I'm doing it because I know I've magnified. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I'm not ever burning out.
Yep.
And that's the power.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so sick. I love that you know so much about yourself in that way. Because that's like the goal, just to learn more and more about ourselves. So we can like exist better in the universe. Okay, so being authentic, being our authentic selves, I know that's something that like you're really passionate about. So I was wondering if you had like any specific advice that you could give to the curious cuties on how they, if they're struggling to find and embrace their authentic self. I know we've talked about human design, and maybe some of them know they're human design, but just on like a basic level of feeling like, I just don't know myself. I don't know how to find who I am. Like, what would you give? Like, what advice would you give to them?
Okay, this is fun. This comes from the Cherokee Indians.
Okay.
But all indigenous cultures had a medicine wheel.
Okay.
This was introduced to me about a year ago, actually. And it like is another thing that I was like, oh, yes, this is amazing. And it's a wheel and it explains your life in quadrants. Okay, so you have your spiritual life, you have your childlike life, your work life, and then giving back. Okay. And it's different directions mean different things. Okay. And for me, when the wheel was introduced to me, and my life has changed so much in a year because I think it was this awareness, right? Because we all know this about me now. I was very spiritual and very work focused. So what was I missing?
You mean seeing childlike,
and then giving back.
Okay.
I mean, I was doing small groups and like doing things for free, education for free, but like really thinking about how I want to give back in a really specific way. I'm still working on that piece. But what the awareness was from the jump was, oh my gosh, being like a child.
Yeah.
So where you can really start to find yourself before deconditioning.
Yeah.
Very quickly, human design is very helpful.
Right.
But how were you as a child? What did you like to do as a child? And I mean, what did you like to do?
Right.
Not what did someone sign you up for?
Right. True.
What did you, like I would make believe I was a teacher. I would line my stuffed animals up. My favorite toy in my room is the little whiteboard with the markers. I teach back what I learned that day.
Yeah.
I loved art. I wasn't good at it. I mean, eventually I learned the world did not think I was an artist.
Same.
But
I could not paint, but I liked it.
I loved it. So you know what you would like? I love it. Is paint by numbers.
I do like that.
Oh my God.
I know because it's analytical. I'm like, this is the right answer, but it's fun to do. I love coloring. So I have like adult coloring books.
Yeah. So thinking about what did you really like to do? And then how can I incorporate that? Or what does that look? And I took it a bit too far. I got rollerblades.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh my God. It was so fun. And my husband, okay, he's 10 years older and he's like, no. You're 35 now. Like you have to have all of the pads, and
you
helmet.
have to be careful.
And I'm like, I don't need that. Luckily I listened and I got it. I ended up falling, y'all. So I was doing so good. I had my turns down, I was like,
you're like showing up
dynamite.
and showing out.
Yes. And I was having so much fun. My driveway is like a quarter of a mile long and it goes uphill. And I'm like, well, actually uphill is easier than downhill. So I'll just skate up because we were done. I was like, I'll skate up. My husband was inside. It was just my kids and I. So they get up before me, but then I didn't think about, I have asthma. I didn't think about like running out of breath and like being exhausted by the time I skated up that quarter of a mile. So I go to rest at the top of it and I started going backwards. I thought I broke my tailbone. I couldn't sit for a while. But what I realized, this is the beginning of this year, I realized we sit too much.
Yeah.
I need to stand more. I started doing a lot of my Zoom sessions standing. So it really...
I wish I could record podcasts walking, but like it's too noisy out.
It's too noisy, yeah. But it brought awareness to how much I was sitting. So I was like, okay, there was a benefit, but I'm not going to roller skate anymore. Like there was too much risk involved.
Yeah.
Like, the risk was not worth the reward. So I just say, reflect back on your life. What did you like to do as a child? And how can you bring that into your day?
Yeah. Okay. Love that. That's perfect. That's a good way of finding your authentic self.
Yeah.
I want to know if there's any future goals for Embodied Abundance and Float Nashville that you can kind of share with us. It's like a little teaser or what's coming up or what are you working on?
Well, I kind of dropped the book thing and that's early because I was just outlining it. It's been in my heart. Like I started the children's book this December, January. Those were kind of coming to life.
So that was a big teaser. So I didn't know you hadn't shared that yet.
It's not. No, I have never shared it.
Okay.
I mean, I've shared it with my tribe.
Yes.
But never publicly shared it.
Okay. Love that.
I got stuck in the book publication because of the illustration.
Okay.
It was going to be really expensive. It was about $1,000 a book to illustrate.
Okay. Wow.
But now I've learned Canva more.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think I could self-illustrate this just in Canva for very basic.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll get picked up by a publishing house
and
they can redo it, you know? And so I was starting backwards back then and was trying to get the children's books first and then the parenting guide.
Uh-huh.
And then over the past month or so, there's been things that have come that's like bringing it back up and more of an urgent. So I feel my body pulsing on for
towards
it again.
The parenting
towards
one?
the parenting book first.
I just think that's so smart.
I can launch that faster because I can write. It doesn't need illustration. It needs a cover.
It's
and I already have
it
in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just need to get it out. And so I'm like, okay, I'll get that out.
Yeah.
Then the books will come with the children's books will be the phase 2 probably.
Okay.
And now that I know Canva better, I could probably do it.
You can swing it yourself.
Figure it out. Yes, because you remember I'm an accumulator, so I wasn't about to drop $5,000 on these books before I knew what they were going to bring back. That felt like a waste.
Yeah.
But I had surgery in January, and I told my husband, I was like, if I die on this table, these books are in this drive, and please use my life insurance to publish these books. I swear to God, I said that because I'm like, you can take $5,000 out of that, but I'm not doing it while I'm still alive.
That's so crazy.
Funny. Like that's how you know it's your life's work when you're like, if I die, you have to publish these.
That is crazy.
And I made sure that's why I wrote them so quickly because I needed them out of my body.
Yeah.
Before I went into surgery.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That just goes to show the person that you are. I love that. Okay. What are some practical steps that Curious Cuties can take to begin reconnecting with their bodies and understanding their own energy? We've done human design. We've done the childlike play. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that like tapping into energy that they can get?
A lot of times, a lot of people, especially post-COVID, struggle with anxiety, depression.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we don't move our body as much as we move our mind.
Yeah. I saw your post on this about this.
Oh my God. It's a game changer. Like start tracking your phone, your steps on your phone. Mm-hmm. You might not carry your phone everywhere, but you carried enough to have awareness of like, oh my God, I'm not moving my body. Yeah. Do not try to be some superhero and get 10,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
So when I was going through, so my surgery was on endometriosis. I told you I had like infertility issues. Mm-hmm. And one thing I've been learning in my journey is to make sure to keep inflammation out of the body. You should walk 3,000 steps a day.
Okay.
Which you can do that
like
in about 30 minutes.
Less, or
no, you can do more.
Okay.
Always can do more. But make 3,000 your goal.
Okay.
That's right?
Great. Yeah,
that seems
doable.
Attainable. You can do that while you're talking on the phone.
Yeah.
It's literally can be slow 30-minute walk, fast 15-minute walk. Like you can get 3,000 in.
For sure.
If you're at least moving your body 3,000 steps a day, it's going to regulate. It's going to bring harmony from the mind and the body.
And it reduces inflammation.
It reduces inflammation. So that's huge. But it also is going to reduce anxiety.
Yeah.
Because you're balancing.
Yes.
My body's moved just as much as my mind.
I know. I was so excited this morning when I got like a text that kind of made me nervous today.
Yeah.
And I
hate those.
I know I hate them. But I was walking on the treadmill after my workout as I just kind of do like a cool down essentially, but it's like a 30-minute cool down on the treadmill.
So good.
And I got that text while I was on the treadmill. And I was like, thank you. I'm so glad I got this while I was walking.
Yes.
Because then I immediately regulated myself. Yes. But at first I was like, but I was like, that's okay. Because I'm walking and we're okay, you know? Yes. And I was like, so grateful. I was like, not grateful for the text, but I was grateful for the timing of the text.
Yes. There you go. So. Wait, that's a good way to reframe it. I think so many times when we think about regulating, we think about being still and doing nothing.
Right.
When really the body's made to move. Yeah. And that was something... Okay, let's talk about this for 2 seconds. Sometimes with these personality assessments, these things like human design, we can get conditioned within the programming.
Yeah. Yes,
so
true.
What happens when I'm a manifestor and I think I need to rest all the time?
Yeah, then
was I moving my body? No.
You're not going to burn out, but you're not going to even have a fire.
Yes. And then it took like, oh, I might be a manifestor, but I'm a human.
Right.
Okay. So that's when all this nervous system education started coming into play because I'm like, wait a minute, I have to teach people who are also a human who needs blood to flow.
Yep.
Who needs to move. You might not be doing a HIIT workout, but maybe you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your manifestor doesn't mean, projector, reflector doesn't mean you cannot move.
No.
And you can't move vigorously or you can't. It's just all about listening to what the body needs. And guess what? Like as women, we might ebb and flow based on our cycle.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We might choose different work. So it's like all about mindfulness and not, I don't know, not assuming your body does one thing versus the other, but really listening to it. And then taking these things like human design with a lens of curiosity and not like it's the Bible and being like, okay, how does this feel for me?
Right. Yep.
And play with it. And then design your life.
I love a practical step, like literally step.
Literally, yep, step. And then another one is 15 minutes in the ground every day. Put your feet in the ground for 15 minutes and deep breaths.
Love that.
And then float Nashville. I don't know.
Yeah, like what's going on with float?
I feel like my core mission is teaching and educating.
Okay, yeah.
That's something I really feel like is missing in the world of flotation therapy, and that's really what I'm bringing in is the education piece, so people really understand what's going on in the body before they ever even submerge. You know, it's like, okay. Yeah. So for people that don't know what it is, you're in 10 inches of water, 1,000 pounds of Epsom salts. Crazy. The whole goal is sensory deprivation, and so we're depriving external senses, and people assume because of movies it's making you do crazy things. And you can have really cool, dreamy, creative visions. Yeah. But what it's doing is when the brain doesn't have to process external stimulus, it turns inward to internal stimulus. And this is where you start to build those awarenesses in the mind of the internal body, right? And you get that introception because you start to reconnect with the feelings, the chemical feelings and visceral feelings of the body. You actually, from a lot of people's experience, feel really strong in the tank. So even if you feel overweight and heavy or not sexy, in an anti-gravity environment, you can feel the muscles engage in a way that you don't.
Interesting.
It really helped me heal and bring my abs back together post babies.
Cool.
I had them back to back, and so I struggled with that and being able to feel
your kids
the muscles
18 months
apart. So it wasn't by design because remember I thought I was infertile.
So 9 months. Yes. Your son was 9 months.
Yeah, he was almost 9 months. Yeah, isn't that crazy? It was crazy. And I'm a manifester, right? How did I do it? I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing though.
And now it's fun. You know, they are just so fun. They're almost like twins.
Two peas in a pod.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah. And so with floating, you have the anti-gravity because the salt makes you float. This water skin temperature, so you're not processing touch.
Yep.
There's no lights. Unless you choose to have them. But so you're not processing visual. And then for your auditory sensory, you just hear the rhythm of like your heartbeat and your breath.
Because you wear like the earplugs, right?
You have earplugs. Yeah. Yep. And it's really important to, like some people get nervous, but if you can just get past that, like it's really important to have the no sensory thing because that's what's helping the brain get into theta brainwave. Yeah. And so it's allowing your brain to relax in ways it can't when it's processing stimulus. It's relaxing that nervous system.
That's why I liked it because I'm very sensitive. Like all my senses, like I could go into a dark room and be very happy. You know, like
that's that hermit in you.
It is. Yeah. It is.
So your like nervous system, it automatically regulates in the tank because if your body starts to feel really safe.
It's amazing.
So you're going from fight or flight to rest and restore. For lots of us, this is a re-invitation to even what that even feels like. Yeah. Because we get so conditioned to functioning under stress. Like listen to the first half of my life, it was chaos. You know, I was high functioning in it and building things the world thought was successful. Right. But it was not successful to my body. Yeah. Yes, that's why I couldn't have babies. My nervous system was shot. My body didn't feel safe. It wasn't safe to bring life into the world. I was dysregulated, you know? And so you move without doing anything, you're moving into rest and restore. And that's, you've got a vagus nerve and that's toning that vagus nerve. It's making it strong. The more it does that, the stronger it gets. So the more you float, the more you're doing that because in the world, you're going to get dysregulated. It's okay. That's there to make you safe. But being able to come back in alignment, realizing that you're in fight or flight to bring yourself in, it gets stronger and easier, you know? Then left side logic for us analytical overthinkers, it relaxes. And then right brain, and really left and right is old neuroscience language. It's not real anymore, but it makes it easy to understand.
Yeah, we can understand
right
better.
Brain creativity ramps up. So you get to be I get really creative business solutions. Cool. Or even creative with the kids. Like we've been trying to, like my husband's like, we need to reduce screen time. And so in the tank, it was like, focus on adding, not taking away. And then I got this whole visual of like how we're going to read books together and like separate children and make it more of like how we're adding to the routine, not taking away. And that all came from the float tank. So you just get like
your little downloads,
different perspectives, different downloads. Yeah. We have artists that come in and get out and paint crazy pictures. You can get it helps with memory retention. Great for people after or before exams.
Yeah. Can pregnant women do it?
Yes.
Cool.
And it's so good.
Makes them feel good.
Yes, it takes all that weight off of them. They can feel their baby. So I didn't get a chance to float pregnant. I wish I did.
Yeah.
I had a friend come in and she said she could feel him, like nestle, like she could really feel him, almost like we can, because her felt sense when and she could feel it, and he just snuggled in, and he was so calm. So yeah, and it's really, really good for pregnant. We've had babies turn, some babies haven't turned, and that helps them turn. And then just like clinically, it's really good for anxiety, depression, PTSD, insomnia.
Yeah.
And that all goes with regulating the nervous system.
Yeah. It's a lot of magnesium.
Lots of magnesium.
So that's good.
And that's detoxing.
Yeah. So I do have one last question, and I ask everyone this.
Okay.
Now I know you've talked about it a lot, but it's just the final question. What role does curiosity play in your life?
It's everything.
Yeah.
So for me, I tend to be more black and white and analytical. Mm-hmm. That can also become judgment. Mm-hmm. So, my superlative was most opinionated, AKA bitch, right? And that totally fits the manifester.
That's so funny.
But listen, like when I feel judgment now, because you can't help it.
Yeah.
When I feel judgment now, that's my sign to switch to curiosity.
Yep.
I'll give you an example. I was at the 50 Cent concert.
Okay.
Oh my God. And I'm like, well, to do this, I need to be high. This is, so I took a gummy. Yeah, but I took the wrong gummy. I took one that you use for, like I need when I write my book, right? The focused gummy. You don't want to be focused at 50 Cent. So I'm overthinking everything.
Oh no.
It was like a dark night of the soul, this 50 Cent concert. It was crazy. But what was interesting was and there was strippers on the stage, like dancers, okay? And at first, because of religious conditioning, it brought awareness to some of the religious conditioning that's still there that I haven't had to deal with.
Oh, interesting.
Around sexuality. So I'm judging these strippers.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a minute. I'm judging them.
Yeah.
How can I be curious?
Yeah.
Then I'm like, and then I started seeing how beautiful they are, how strong they are, how coordinated they are, how, wow, like they're this age and they're still doing this.
Yeah.
To the point to where afterwards, a couple weeks later, I took a pole dancing class.
That's awesome.
So like just having that trigger somehow, some way, I don't know when, but when I feel judgment, I now switch instantly to curiosity.
That's interesting.
And it's changed relationships. I mean, it changes you.
What did you say your like out of alignment emotion or feeling is? Is it frustration?
Mine's anger.
Anger. Okay. So I wonder if like anger, judgment, like kind of like if they go hand in hand at all.
Maybe. And I will say like, I rarely feel angry, and that's good because that means I'm living my design. Right. The goal is to get less and less. And so now my signature is peace. I feel peace most often. I feel anger, I think, when there's things that happen I can't control the most, or if I feel controlled.
Yeah.
But I also have some things around that, like mantras, like I try to switch to like things are always working out for me.
Right.
I wonder why this is happening.
Yeah. You go
what
from
can I learn from this?
An exclamation mark to a question mark.
Perfect. I love that. Absolutely. And it's like it's my life jacket. It's my lifeline.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for answering and thank you for being here like, all afternoon, basically, I feel like.
It's great. We did it.
You're amazing. So everyone, please follow her, Float Nashville. If you're a local curious cutie, go to Float. Yes. Let me know if you want to go. Like maybe we can do like another event together. And do something kind of fun.
I would love that.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We love you guys. Stay curious. And until next time, bye.
Bye.